Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where it's far too easy to get caught up in the emotions of the moment. Someone says something hurtful or their actions leave us feeling wounded, and in that instant, our heart races, our mind spins, and the urge to react overwhelms us. But I stand before you today to tell you that you do not have to react when someone hurts you. The real strength lies in choosing not to react, in taking control of your emotions and thoughts, and deciding how you want to respond. Let me remind you of this. A reaction is automatic, like a reflex. A response, however, is intentional, thoughtful, and empowered. When someone hurts you, there's often an immediate rush to fire back, to defend ourselves, to protect our pride. But when you pause, when you take that brief moment of stillness, you hold the power to choose. You choose whether to stay peaceful or fall into the chaos of reaction. Mastering your emotions is not about suppressing them, but rather understanding that true strength is not in letting our feelings dictate our actions. The moment someone hurts you, you're faced with a choice: to react impulsively or to step back and reflect. In that space between the hurt and your response, growth can happen. You may realize that the hurtful words or actions have more to do with the other person's issues than with you. And in that realization, you find freedom. Think about this for a moment. Hurt only perpetuates more hurt. If you react in anger or frustration, all you're doing is feeding the cycle. But when you refuse to engage in that cycle, when you choose to respond with grace and wisdom, you break the chain. You free yourself and others from a destructive pattern. You must understand this truth. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you. People may hurt you, disappoint you, or act out of their own pain, but their actions do not define who you are. Your value is not in their words or actions. It's rooted deep within you. And the more you realize this, the more you realize that there is nothing anyone can do to take away your peace unless you let them. We often react because our ego is wounded. We feel the need to protect our image, to defend our honor. But peace is far more important than ego. When we allow our ego to drive us, we lose our sense of tranquility and we become entangled in conflict. But when we let go of the need to defend ourselves in every moment, we find that true peace comes from within. It's not about being right, it's about being at peace. And finally, remember the power of silence and calmness. There is immense strength in simply staying calm, in not engaging with the negativity. When someone tries to provoke you, your silence often speaks louder than any words could. It shows strength, it shows wisdom, and it leaves a lasting impression that you are So I urge you today, never react when someone hurts you. Pause, reflect, respond with wisdom, protect your peace, and choose to rise above the noise. Your true power is in your response, not in your reaction. Let that power guide you in every moment, and you will find that the hurt people inflict on you will no longer have the ability to disturb your peace. When we are hurt, our immediate instinct is often to react, whether it's to defend ourselves, to get back at the person, or simply to express our anger and frustration. But in those moments, it's important to understand that reaction is a reflex. It's automatic, based on impulse and emotion, and often fueled by a desire for validation or revenge. The moment we react, we lose control. We allow the situation to dictate our next move, and in doing so, we give away our power. True power lies in response. A response that comes not from impulsive emotions, but from intentional, deliberate thought. When you choose to respond, you are making a conscious decision, one that comes from a place of understanding, wisdom, and clarity. Responding means you are in control of your actions and not at the mercy of the person who has hurt you. It allows you to take a step back and assess the situation from a higher perspective rather than getting caught in the emotional whirlwind. A reaction typically leads to escalation. It brings more noise, more conflict, and often more harm. But a response can diffuse a situation, calm the storm, and create space for healing and understanding. By understanding the power of response, you realize that you have the ability to choose your next move, no matter how deeply someone may have hurt you. Not about suppressing your feelings or pretending the hurt doesn't exist, but rather giving yourself the space to process your emotions before deciding how to act. In that moment of pain, you might feel an overwhelming urge to react, but take a step back. In those precious seconds, recognize that your next move can either keep you trapped in a cycle of negativity or set you free. When you choose to respond with composure and wisdom, you choose to break free from the hold that pain and hurt have over you. You take back control over your peace, your thoughts, and your actions. Understanding the power of response, about recognizing that the true strength comes from within you, not from external circumstances or the behavior of others. And once you realize that, you unlock a tremendous freedom to rise above any hurt, no matter what form it may take. You no longer allow anyone or anything to have control over your inner peace. Emotional mastery is a cornerstone of personal strength. It's about recognizing that your emotions, while powerful and natural, do not have to dictate your actions. Too often we let our feelings overwhelm us, thinking that in order to express ourselves, we must act out every emotion we experience. But true mastery comes when you learn to understand your emotions, acknowledge them, and then make a choice about how to handle them. When someone hurts you, the initial emotional reaction might be intense. Anger, sadness, frustration, or even confusion. These emotions are valid. They come from a place of deep sensitivity and vulnerability. But in the heat of the moment, they can cloud your judgment and lead to decisions you might regret. Emotional mastery means stepping back in that moment and giving yourself space to process. It means recognizing the difference between feeling something and acting on it impulsively. Many people react to pain with an outpouring of their emotions because they think it will help them release the hurt. But often it only leads to more turmoil. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing or denying your feelings. It's about giving yourself the time and the clarity to reflect before you act. It's the ability to pause and ask yourself, how do I want to respond to this? Instead of letting anger guide your actions, you choose to channel your feelings in a way that serves you and protects your peace. When you are in control of your emotions, you stop letting external circumstances control your inner state. You stop allowing the words or actions of others to disturb your peace. And in doing so, you create a space of calm where rational thought can emerge. This calmness doesn't mean you are indifferent to what's happening around you. Rather, it means you are grounded in a place of self-awareness, where you don't allow your emotions to be the loudest voice in your mind. You allow them to be signals informing you of what's happening within, but not ruling your response. Emotional mastery also means understanding that emotions are temporary. Just because you feel hurt in one moment doesn't mean that hurt will last forever. Emotions are like waves. They rise and fall. The key is not to make decisions in the heat of the wave, but to ride it with grace, knowing that it will soon pass. And when you respond to emotions with more wisdom and resignance. Ultimately, emotional mastery is about emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions in ways that build rather than break relationships. It allows you to engage with the world from a place of strength, not weakness. By mastering your emotions, you take back the power that hurtful situations might otherwise steal from you, and in doing so, you unlock the ability to respond with compassion, calmness, and clarity, no matter what life throws your way. When we experience hurt, whether from someone's words, actions, or simply a situation that didn't go as we hoped, our first impulse is often to react. But before we act, we must give ourselves the chance to reflect. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have to process and understand the feelings that arise in moments of pain. It allows us to step back and gain perspective, to rise above the situation and to view it from a broader angle. The importance of reflection is that it helps us break free from the automatic responses we might otherwise have. Without reflection, we often act out of instinct, driven by emotion, frustration, or even a need for instant relief. But when we take the time to reflect, we open the door to understanding. Not only the situation itself, but also our own internal responses. Reflection enables us to ask ourselves key questions. Why did this situation hurt me so deeply? What can I learn from this? What is my role in this situation? And how can I handle it better next time? In these moments, reflection becomes a tool for growth. It transforms what could have been an emotionally charged reaction into an opportunity for personal development. Sometimes the pain we experience is more about us than it is about the other person. It can highlight areas in ourselves that need healing, areas where our boundaries may have been compromised, or areas where we may need to improve our ability to communicate or manage expectations. Reflection gives us the space to process these truths without rushing to judgment or retaliation. Furthermore, reflection allows us to gain clarity. When we react impulsively, our emotions often cloud our judgment. We may say things or do things we don't mean, and the situation may become more complicated than it needs to be. But in taking time to reflect, we can sift through the noise and gain a clear understanding of the situation. We might realize that the person who hurt us was dealing with their own struggles, or perhaps the situation was not as personal as we initially thought. Reflection gives us the chance to separate the facts from the emotions and enables us to respond in a more balanced, thoughtful way. Another key aspect of reflection is that it can lead us to forgiveness, not for the sake of the person who hurt us, but for our own peace. Often we carry the weight of hurt because we don't reflect on what forgiveness truly means. Reflection helps us to see that holding on to pain and anger only keeps us trapped. Forgiveness, then, is not a gift to the other person, but a gift to ourselves. It is the act of freeing ourselves from the emotional burden that could otherwise hold us captive. In moments of reflection, we are not just processing the hurt we've experienced, but also creating the space to choose a better path forward. We gain insight into how we can handle similar situations in the future with more grace, wisdom, and resilience. It's through reflection that we can gain emotional maturity, because it teaches us to be less reactive and more thoughtful in our approach to challenges. Ultimately, the importance of reflection lies in its ability to turn every experience, whether painful or challenging, into a learning opportunity. By taking the time to reflect, we cultivate the wisdom to grow from every encounter, ensuring that each experience, no matter how difficult, becomes a stepping stone toward greater self-awareness and emotional strength. When we experience hurt, it's easy to fall into a pattern of reacting in ways that perpetuate the pain. This cycle of hurt can be an ongoing loop where one person's action leads to another person's reaction, and the emotions continue to escalate. The more we engage in this cycle, the more we fuel it, and the deeper we become enmeshed in negativity. Breaking this cycle is essential for our own emotional well-being and peace of mind. It requires a conscious decision to step outside the automatic patterns of behavior and respond with intention rather than reflex. When hurt is inflicted upon us, the natural instinct is to strike back, to retaliate, or to make the other person feel the way we feel. But this reaction only feeds the cycle of hurt. It doesn't resolve the issue. It only creates more conflict and deepens the pain. The cycle becomes a repetitive loop where each action is met with a defensive reaction, and both sides end up feeling more hurt and more misunderstood. Breaking this cycle requires us to pause and step back from that reflexive urge to respond with anger, blame, or resentment. One of the key ways to break the cycle of hurt is through emotional awareness. Understanding that our emotions are valid, but that we have the power to control how we express them is crucial. When we're hurt, it's important to recognize that we don't have to react immediately or impulsively. We can give ourselves the time and space to process the emotion before choosing how to respond. This allows us to break free from the instinctual automatic reactions that keep the cycle going. Instead of responding to hurt with more hurt, we have the option to choose a more measured, thoughtful response. One that doesn't contribute to the negativity, but helps to diffuse it. Another powerful way to break the cycle is by choosing compassion over retaliation. When we are hurt, it's easy to think of the other person as the enemy. But the truth is, hurt often comes from a place of their own pain or misunderstanding. They may not even be aware of the impact their actions had on us. By choosing to respond with compassion instead of anger, we can interrupt the cycle and create an opportunity for healing rather than further conflict. Compassion doesn't mean we accept poor behavior or allow others to mistreat us. But it does mean that we approach the situation from a place of understanding rather than reactivity. Forgiveness is another key element in breaking the cycle. This doesn't mean we condone the hurtful behavior, but that we release ourselves from the emotional weight of holding on to that pain. Forgiveness doesn't just set the other person free, it sets us free. Holding on to resentment and anger only binds us to the situation, allowing it to control our thoughts and emotions. When we forgive, we choose to let go of the power that the hurt has over us. It's a way of taking back control over our peace and our response to the world around us. We also break the cycle when we decide to respond with clarity instead of confusion. Often, hurtful actions or words leave us feeling disoriented or unsure of what to do next. But when we take a moment to clarify our values, to check in with ourselves about what we truly want to achieve from the interaction, we find that the cycle of hurt can be broken by responding in alignment with our true self. Our clarity allows us to choose responses that are rooted in our values, such as respect, kindness, and understanding, rather than in reactivity. Finally, breaking the cycle of hurt involves recognizing the role of personal responsibility. It's important to ask ourselves, what role did I play in this situation? This doesn't mean blaming ourselves, but acknowledging that we have the power to influence the dynamics of any relationship or interaction. We can't control others, but we can control how we show up. By taking responsibility for our part, we empower ourselves to create healthier interactions moving forward. This shift in mindset allows us to stop playing the victim or villain and instead be an active participant in creating positive change. The power to break the cycle of hurt lies in our hands. It's not about denying our emotions or pretending the hurt didn't happen, but about recognizing that we don't have to keep feeding the cycle. When we choose to respond with awareness, compassion, forgiveness, and clarity, we can break free from the repetitive loop of pain and create space for healing and growth. Each moment offers an opportunity to choose peace over conflict, understanding over hurt. By breaking the cycle, we open ourselves to the possibility of deeper, more meaningful connections with ourselves and others. When someone hurts you, it can feel as though your worth is being questioned or diminished. Whether through words, actions, or rejection, the experience can leave you doubting yourself. But in these moments, it's essential to remember that your value is not determined by others. How others treat you, how they perceive you, or how they choose to behave has no bearing on who you are as a person. People's actions are often reflections of themselves, not a judgment on you. Sometimes people project their own insecurities, fears, or unresolved issues onto others. When they lash out or behave in hurtful ways, it's more about what they're going through internally than it is about your worth. Their behavior is a reflection of their state of mind, not a reflection of who you are. This is why it's so important not to internalize the negative treatment of others. We often find ourselves tying our self-worth to external validation, whether it's approval from friends, recognition at work, or acceptance within a community. While these things can feel affirming in the moment, they are fleeting. If you base your sense of self on external opinions, you will always be at the mercy of others. This is why it's so critical to realize that your value is inherent and unshakable. It's not determined by a momentary interaction or the opinions of those around you. Your value is within you, independent of external circumstances. When you recognize that your worth is not in the hands of others, you gain freedom. You no longer have to seek validation or approval from people who might not understand you or who might treat you unfairly. Instead, you turn inward and find your worth from the foundation of who you are. This internal validation comes from your integrity, your character, your compassion, and the work you put into growing as a person. It's grounded in your ability to rise after setbacks, to learn from mistakes, and to continuously strive to be better, not because you seek the approval of others, but because it aligns with your values and who you wish to become. People may hurt you, betray you, or misunderstand you, but none of that diminishes your worth. How others perceive you is not your reality. The way they treat you or the judgments they make say more about their view of the world than about you. You are not defined by others' perspectives, and you are not the sum of others' criticisms or rejections. Your value cannot be taken away because it is rooted in the very essence of who you are as a human being. When you understand that your value is not dependent on others, you also begin to stop seeking to please everyone around you. Not everyone will like you, agree with you, or treat you with kindness. And that's okay. Your worth does not hinge on the approval of others. It rests in your own self-acceptance and in your commitment to live a life true to your principles. You begin to accept that some people might not be able to see or appreciate your worth, but that doesn't change who you are or the impact you have. This understanding allows you to remain grounded and centered, even when faced with negativity or criticism. It helps you navigate through challenging relationships without losing yourself or compromising your values. When you internalize this truth, that your value is inherent and not tied to how others perceive you, you become immune to the fluctuations of others' opinions and behaviors. Instead of reacting with hurt, you respond with confidence and clarity, knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. In the face of hurtful words or actions, remind yourself their treatment of you says nothing about who you are. You are valuable, not because of how others treat you, but because of the person you choose to be. Your worth is not for sale, and it cannot be diminished. It is intrinsic to your being, and when you embrace this truth, you free yourself from the need for external validation. You are already whole. You are already valuable, and nothing can take that away from you. In the heat of a situation where we feel hurt, it's easy to let our ego take the lead. Our ego often pushes us to react defensively, to protect our pride, and to defend our self-ego. We might feel the need to prove ourselves right, to make sure we're not seen as weak, or to assert that we won't be treated unfairly. But in doing so, we risk losing the very peace and clarity that would allow us to respond with wisdom. The truth is, peace over ego is not just a choice. It's the path to true strength and emotional resilience. When we're caught in the grip of ego, we may act impulsively, speaking or doing things that escalate the situation. The ego demands satisfaction. It insists on being heard, on being validated, and it thrives on the idea of being in control. But the ego is not concerned with healing, resolution, or maintaining harmony. It is more concerned with being right, or protecting a fragile sense of self-worth. The problem with this is that when we act solely out of ego, we contribute to the very conflict we want to resolve. We may say things we don't mean, we might escalate tension, or we might make the situation worse. And in the process, we lose sight of the peace we are ultimately seeking. True peace doesn't come from proving something to others or protecting our pride. Peace comes when we release the need to be right or to defend our honor at all costs. It comes when we choose to let go of our ego and focus on what truly matters: resolution, growth, and inner tranquility. This doesn't mean we allow others to walk all over us or accept mistreatment. Rather, it means we shift our focus from the need to dominate a conversation or situation to the desire to navigate it with grace and understanding. When we prioritize peace, we make space for empathy. The ego thrives, and a more balanced response feeds on division and separation because it finds its identity in being distinct or different from others. But peace, on the other hand, is about unity, connection, and understanding. When we choose peace over ego, we align ourselves with the possibility of resolving the conflict rather than adding fuel to it. We acknowledge that our need to defend our ego is often a temporary reaction to a deeper fear of being judged, misunderstood, or rejected. But the truth is, our worth is not in our ego. It is in our character, in our capacity to remain calm and composed, and in our ability to respond thoughtfully, even in challenging circumstances. Moreover, when we put peace over ego, we are also choosing to protect our mental and emotional health. Ego-driven responses tend to cause more stress, anxiety, and frustration. They trap us in a cycle of defensiveness And the energy it takes to maintain that defense drains us. But when we choose peace, we allow ourselves to step back from the situation, to breathe, and to respond with a clear mind and a balanced heart. In this way, peace is not just about resolving external conflict, it's about creating inner harmony. When we let go of the ego, we stop letting others' actions dictate our emotional state. The ego wants to engage, to fight, to retaliate, but peace allows us to remain centered, to keep our focus on what we can control, our response. By not reacting out of ego, we preserve our peace and maintain our dignity. We don't let anyone's words or actions dictate how we feel or how we behave. Instead, we choose to act from a place of integrity and strength, ensuring that our peace is never compromised by external circumstances. Choosing peace over ego is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate act of strength. It takes far more courage and emotional maturity to rise above the impulse to defend your ego than it does to react impulsively. It's about being secure in who you are, knowing that your value doesn't depend on how others see you or how they treat you in any given moment. When we let go of the need to protect our ego, we open ourselves up to deeper understanding, stronger relationships, and a more peaceful life. In the end, peace is the real victory, is the calm in the storm, the clarity amidst confusion, and the foundation that allows us to move through life with grace, resilience, and wisdom. When we prioritize peace over ego, we unlock the true power to navigate life's challenges with composure, emotional intelligence, and unwavering strength. In a world that constantly demands responses, reactions, and instant solutions, silence and calmness hold a profound power that is often overlooked. When hurtful words are spoken, when tensions rise, or when we are faced with conflict, the immediate impulse is often to engage, to respond, to defend ourselves. Yet, there is an extraordinary strength in choosing silence over reaction and calmness over chaos. Silence in the face of aggression, calmness amidst turbulence, has the potential to diffuse situations and create space for clarity and resolution. Silence does not mean weakness, nor does it signify an absence of emotion. It is a conscious choice to not be swept away by the current of anger or frustration that may be rushing through us. In those moments when we are hurt or provoked, silence offers us the time to breathe, to step back, and to regain our composure. It gives us the space to allow the storm of emotion to pass so we can respond, not out of impulse, but from a place of wisdom and clarity. This ability to pause is a mark of inner strength. It shows that we are in control of ourselves, not at the mercy of our feelings or the actions of others. When we choose silence, we often create a sense of stillness that can quiet the noise around us. In a heated exchange, words may fly in all directions and the tension may escalate. But when we stay silent, we disrupt that cycle. We refuse to engage in the noise. And in doing so, we force the situation to either calm down or remain stagnant, where no further harm can be done. This silence allows us to break free from the chaos that others may try to draw us into, and it allows us to maintain our peace, unshaken by the turmoil. Calmness, too, is a powerful force. It is easy to be swept up in a rush of emotion, but calmness is the ability to maintain composure even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. It is not about being indifferent or detached. It is about being grounded and centered amidst the storm. A calm demeanor has the power to diffuse a tense situation. When others see you respond with a level head, it can have a stabilizing effect on the environment. It can encourage others to step back and rethink their own reactions. A calm response sends a message that you are not threatened, that you are unshaken by the turbulence around you. Moreover, calmness allows for better decision making. When we're agitated, we often make decisions based on impulse, which can lead to regret later. But when we are calm, we are better able to assess the situation with a clear mind. We can choose the response that is most aligned with our values, and we are more likely to act in ways that promote healing and resolution rather than adding to the conflict. I think that silence and calmness work together to provide us with the opportunity to choose a response, not a reaction. In addition to diffusing conflict, silence and calmness allow us to practice empathy. By not rushing to speak, we create space for others to express themselves. Sometimes people lash out or hurt us because they are struggling with their own pain. Silence gives us the opportunity to listen, not just to the words being spoken, but to the underlying emotions behind them. It opens the door for deeper understanding, helping us to respond with compassion rather than with defense. In this way, silence becomes an act of presence and attentiveness, allowing us to engage in relationships and conflicts from a place of emotional maturity. There is also a profound healing power in silence. When we choose to remain silent, we give ourselves the space to heal, to process, and to reflect. Silence allows us to detach from the noise of the world, the expectations of others, and the pressure to constantly perform. It creates an environment where we can reconnect with ourselves, where we can regain a sense of balance, and where we can regain a sense of balance. In silence, we are reminded that we do not need to prove anything or fight for our worth. Silence affirms that our value is not determined by constant action or outward expression, but by the peace we carry within. Lastly, silence and calmness cultivate resilience. The ability to remain calm in the face of adversity strengthens our emotional endurance over time. Each time we choose silence over a hasty reaction, we build our inner fortitude. We learn to navigate through life's challenges without being shaken by every external force that comes our way. And this resilience empowers us to face even greater challenges with the same poise and clarity, knowing that we have the strength to maintain our peace no matter what life throws at us. In a world that is often loud and chaotic, the power of silence and calmness is transformative. It is a reminder that we are not defined by how loudly we speak or how quickly we react, but by the grace and wisdom with which we handle the storms of life. When we choose silence and calmness, we align ourselves with a deeper sense of strength and peace, showing the world that we are unshaken, unbroken, and fully in control of ourselves no matter what comes our way. In conclusion, silence and calmness are not signs of passivity or weakness. They are the ultimate expressions of strength and emotional intelligence. By choosing to remain silent when provoked and to respond with calmness, we take back control of our peace, ensuring that we are not ruled by external forces or fleeting emotions. These moments of stillness create the space needed for reflection, understanding, and growth, allowing us to respond with wisdom, compassion, and clarity. The world may continue to throw challenges and conflicts in our direction, but when we embrace the power of silence and calmness, we stand firm in our inner peace. True strength is found not in how we react to the world, but in how we choose to respond to it. By mastering the art of silence and cultivating a calm spirit, we unlock a power that cannot be shaken or diminished, one that will guide us through every storm with resilience and grace. So let us remember, in the silence, there is power. In the calmness, there is peace. And in that peace, we find our true strength.